Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we have a 2018 Ford Fiesta and we're going to be taking a look at and I'm going to show you how to install the Roadmaster Direct-Connect base plate for flat towing your Fiesta. The base plate is going to be the physical connection point on the front of your Fiesta so that you can hook your tow bar up to it and flat tow it down the road. What I really like about this particular base plate is that whenever you're not flat towing your Fiesta, you can remove these arms and then there's virtually going to be nothing left on the front of your Fiesta. You will still have the 6-pole wiring and the breakaway switch. The nice part about this base plate is that you're going to have 2 tabs that stick out for that 6-pole wiring to be mounted directly to. The safety cable loops are going to be welded onto the base plate so you can connect up your safety cables to them. I will say that they do work better with this S-hook style than they do with the clevis style. The S-hook style will just simply snap right on like that, and they fit a lot better inside this opening than the clevis style does. In addition to your base plate, you are going to need 4 other main flat towing components. The other ones are going to be your tow bar, which is going to be the physical connection point from your RV to your Fiesta, your safety cables, your diode wiring, and your supplemental braking system. Because the Fiesta does sit so low to the ground, I would recommend a high-low adapter depending on the measurement from the ground to the center of the hitch pin hole on your RV. This is a Ford Transit style RV, so it already sits pretty low. We were measuring at 17.5 inches to the center of the hitch pin hole here, and then 13 inches from the ground to the center of this pin here. So use that 13-inch measurement, measure your RV's hitch pin hole, and you want to be within 3 inches of level. So I highly doubt that you're going to be any lower than 13 inches, so you want to be either 16 inches, anywhere between 13 and 16 inches off the ground. If it's any higher than that, get a high-low adapter to get it within that 3-inch range. As far as the installation goes, this base plate is pretty involved to get installed. The one thing I will say is that you will have to remove your headlights. You will have to remove the front fascia of your vehicle. That's going to be pretty well the same for any base plate that you're going to put on the Fiesta because it fits behind the front fascia here. I will say that the Roadmaster one is probably going to be the easiest to get completed. We did have some other base plates that we've tried to put on the Fiesta, and they are really a pain to get installed because you have to remove the front bumper, then you have to remove the bumper guard that's behind there. So it's just, there's a lot involved. This one you do have to do that, but Roadmaster makes it really easy, really clear in their instructions of how to get this one installed. So hopefully with our help, you're able to get it installed too. If you don't feel comfortable doing this installation yourself, feel free to check out our dealer locator on our website to see what dealer closest to you that can get this and your other flat towing components installed on your Fiesta. To begin our installation, we're going to need to take the front fascia off of our vehicle. So what we're going to do is we'll have 4 of these screw style fasteners up here on the front that we'll have to remove. We'll have one here, go across, there's another one here, and then one here. The way that these work is you'll run the center out. You may have to spin it and pull up lightly so you've got the center out, and then we'll take a fastener removal tool and pop the base out. You can probably do that with a screwdriver too if you don't have one of these. And we'll grab a T30 Torx bit and remove the screw here down at the bottom. If you don't have a Torx bit, these do have a big slot in the top of them that you could use a flathead screwdriver with. We're going to have another one here at the top. And then to get our headlight removed, we're going to push up on this, pry back on this little plastic tab, and then we're going to have to kind of, in one movement, we're going to have to pull our headlight up and out like this. There we go. And don't forget to take this wire off, push that little black tab there, and just pop the light out. We'll do that to the other side. Now inside our wheel wells, we're going to have 2 T25 Torx bit screws we'll have to remove. That'll be on each side of our vehicle. One's going to be up in this area, about here, and then one's going to be a little bit lower down. Now this can be a very tight spot. A trick if you're doing this install from the ground is just turn the wheels in, and then you can fit a normal screwdriver or bit in here. We use these tools all the time because we have these lifts that don't allow the wheels to turn. Now underneath our fascia, you're either going to have 3 screws or 5 screws holding on this front fascia. We've got 5 here. We had 1 here. There's 1 here, 1 in the dead center, and then same 2 over on the other side. We'll just take a 7mm socket and remove all of those. Now we've got a couple of screws on each side holding our fascia to the body panel here, and they're going to be in this area right here. There's 3 of them along the edge. The bottom one you can reach a little bit easier from underneath. There's a little hole in our fender liner that you can reach through, grab that one. And then the top one, if you have an 8mm socket and a swivel and an extension, you can reach down in this gap and get that backed out. Now with an extra set of hands, we've got Trevor helping us out here. We're gonna rip this fascia off here. We shouldn't have anything connected. Oh, looks like we've got a wiring harness over here for our fog light. So if you have fogs, you will have this harness. Just pop that out. And it looks like there was one on Trevor's side too. We got those disconnected. We'll set this in a safe place. With our fascia out of the way, we can see now more of where we're going to be able to put our base plate at. We've got one of those screw style fasteners right here on the front, and then over on this other side, on the outside, we have one more of these screws. We'll take that out, and what we'll do is we'll need to remove this air deflector, pop this out. This is not going back on, so you want to make sure you grab all those fasteners, and we'll set it to the side. Now we'll grab our trim panel tool again. We're going to remove this air temperature sensor here. Pop that out. Just going to set it off to the side. And then in the center here, we have our airbag sensors. And we'll have to take our 10mm socket and remove the nut that's holding each one of them on. Then on the passenger side with our horn here, we're going to unplug it and then take the nut or the bolt off the back side. This will take an 8mm socket. Now on our air deflector, we will have a couple more push pin fasteners here. That same screw style, we'll have one here and one here in order for us to get this top deflector removed. And then we're going to have a couple on top too. These top ones, you just want to pop the center out, and then pop the base out. Just like to remove it, we're going to have to grab a little screwdriver and pop these little tabs in here. Again, with that trim panel tool, we're going to take all these this wiring harnesses and stuff, and you want to disconnect anything that is touching the bumper beam, because that is going to have to come off for the installation. On the front of our radiator, we're going to have an 8mm screw on each side that we'll have to take out. Now there's going to be 3 screws that are supporting the radiator still. We're going to have one here, one on the other side, and then one in the middle on this brace. Now we're getting ready to take our bumper beam off. You will want to use a couple of straps to support the radiator because it is attached to the bumper beam. I just ran one strap back here to the motor mount where they will lift the motor from. So that's a nice sturdy point. And then just an extra one up here in the hood. This one's not super secure because the only thing holding the hood up is right here. But this will help to keep the radiator from going anywhere. We'll take a 13mm socket and take these screws out that are holding our bumper beam in place. We'll take our bumper beam. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to get this radiator back here to sit on top of that part of the bumper. Right there. Just let it sit there. That'll hold a good majority of the weight. Just kind of shimmy our bumper beam off of here. Now we've got our base plate put on the bottom side of our bumper beam. We've got our bumper beam flipped over upside down. That's the way that this one's going to mount up. You want to put your base plate on here. You'll see that the top two holes will line up with the two existing holes on the bottom of the bumper beam. We're going to take a 9/16 die grinder and grind these two holes out so that the hardware will fit. Now we're going to take the weld nut plate that looks like this, a bolt, a lock washer, and on this inner hole, the one closest to the center here, we're going to put that bolt. You want to put some red Loctite on it, and we're just going to reach in here with the nut plate, get it lined up with that nut plate, and get this started. Now for these side holes in our bumper beam, we're going to have to drill out that hole to a 1/2 inch. So we've got our 1/2 inch drill bit here. We're going to drill that out. Now we could take our support braces. We're going to slide it in. You do need to get side specific. There's two different sides in your kit. This side is going to be our driver's side. Slide it in. We're going to slide our side bolt in first. I found it works a little bit better, or makes it a little bit easier. Slide that in first. Get it lined up with our threads. Get that started, and then we'll grab another one. For the bolts, you're going to use a split lock washer and then put a little bit of red Loctite on it in order to start those threads. On the inside of our frame rails, we're going to have a little bit of work to do. On the inside of the passenger side, there's going to be a little screw sticking up there. You can see I've already gotten rid of it. I just used a combination between a Dremel and this air chisel in order to knock that out, and then I'm going to use the air chisel to knock this weld nut off the inside here. For this next step, I highly recommend picking up a pack of 2 fish wires off our website that's designed to fit the 1/2 inch bolts, because we're going to need to pull a carriage bolt up through this hole and through the other hole. So we'll take our fish wire, run it through. You'll want to take the spacer block that has the square hole in it, throw that on, and then take your carriage bolt and throw it on. Twist that on there, and we can throw the spacer block in there. And this we can pull right out. You want to make sure that your bolt has seated inside of that square. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver here to hold our bolt in, because it's very, very difficult to be able to hold it and still work with it. We'll put a little bit of red Loctite on those threads. Then we're going to take a split lock washer and then a nut. And we're leaving all this hardware loose until we get this thing back up onto the bumper, and then we can tighten everything down. Then we can take our bumper beam, put it back up into place. This is going to take some finesse in order to get everything lined back up. Make sure you're not crushing any sensors or anything like that. And again, we'll just take our time to get everything lined back up here and into place. Well guys, so now what we're going to do is lift up our bumper beam with our base plate mounted to it. This part was very, very difficult, and we did not end up filming it because of the amount that I had to go just kind of off the cuff. But what we've got here is you've got holes. There's a hole in the frame rail here and a hole in the frame rail here that you're going to have to try to line the two holes up with that are on those braces that slide inside the frame. They didn't line up at all. So what you want to do is, we were able to see the top one a little bit and see the bottom one a little bit. So what we did is I just took a marker, traced a line where I thought that threaded hole was going to line up. And then I just used a step bit and trimmed this out, used a grinding bit and grinded it out a little bit in order for you to get these two bolts in. So for those two particular bolts, you're going to have to get kind of creative in order to get it to fit correctly. What I do recommend though is when you go to trace out where you're going to trim, you'll want to make sure that you at least got one of these bolts tightened, the factory bolts that go in the top here, because I would really hate to see you trace out the hole here with this all loose. You want it to be nice and tight so that whenever you go to put these bolts in, that's where the ultimately the base plate brace is going to be on the inside of the frame. The hardware combination we're going to use for the 4 bolts that go into our frame rail is going to be the same bolts that we've been using and the lock washers. You're going to put a little bit of red Loctite on them, and then you're going to use these big spacer blocks here. This is just designed to be a really wide washer essentially, so that when you do elongate this hole, you can still grip plenty of this metal on here. On the driver's side, I did find that it was easier to drill out this hole and the hole underneath. If you take this reservoir off, it's just going to require a 10mm socket to take this bolt off down here, and then what you have to do is you just take this whole reservoir, pop it straight up. And what I did was, because this harness is run over top of it, you would just want to swing it out, and then I just took it and set it up here, got everything trimmed out, and then I put it back. Then once you get all your hardware in place, we're going to come back with our 19mm socket and tighten and torque all of this hardware to that and the specifications and the instructions. Now the last thing that we had to do for the base plate itself is we had to put our air dam back in place. Obviously we're going to have to put the bumper back on and the headlights, but to get this kind of stuff reassembled is you're going to have to put the top air dam back in place. You don't have to trim anything on it. And then these middle sections, you just have to trim about 1 inch off the bottom. It's just that lower tab. I trimmed the whole tab off, and then we put those back up into place. The lower ones do not get put back in place because the base plate's sitting right where they used to sit. You can put your sensors back up, your airbag sensors, those just go right back where they were. And then your temperature sensor, we just put right here, and we attached it to this wire so that it can still read the temperature coming from the outside. And we also put our airbag sensors back. These go back just the way that they were. And then also you can come up here and put your temperature sensor back into place. Now as far as the base plate goes, we are finished with that installation. Again, you'll just have to put your bumper and your headlights back into place. This is a great time to go ahead and mount up all your other flat towing components while you've got all this ripped off. You can get to everything much easier. You can route your wiring much easier. So that's what we're going to do, and then we'll come back, throw the fascia back on. So we've got all of our flat tow components installed. We've got our braking system, we've got our diode wiring mounted up, and we've got our base plate all completed. What you want to do is throw your front bumper back on. A lot of times we would recommend holding it up and then marking that front grille there to trace out where we're going to have to cut on it. This is that piece. We have tried a couple of different times to cut these out, and we always end up just cutting the whole thing out. Just cut all these little supports. I just used a razor blade to cut those. They're nice and clean. And then use a multi-tool or something like that to be able to cut the two ends off so that you'll take this whole piece out. And as you can see, it looks very, very clean in here. There's the only sections that would have been left out of this whole thing would have been this section here and this little section here. So to me, that's not really worth saving those little pieces. I would just recommend cutting out the whole thing, and I think it looks really, really clean. Well guys, once you get all of this buttoned back up, that's gonna do it for the installation. Well guys, hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the Roadmaster Direct-Connect base plate is right for you in your 2018 Ford Fiesta.